I have to ask about this proposed boycott of a group of advertisers, a coalition of nonprofits. When you hear news of a big push like this to pause spending on Facebook for a month, do you get concerned about that price target? How does that influence your outlook?
Yeah, great question. I think it's certainly something we have to keep an eye on, but at this point, we don't expect much of an impact on Facebook revenues. We've seen this before in terms of some big name advertisers in the past that have dropped out of Facebook. But keep in mind that companies' bread and butter is small and medium-sized businesses. And since Facebook ads are sold in an auction, those ad slots that would have been purchased by Patagonia or North Face will likely be picked up by the next company in line.
No, speaking of small businesses, I mean, Facebook has made a big push to try to help small businesses. Small businesses are obviously at so much risk right now because of the economic downturn. Many of them have shuttered entirely or are sort of waiting to be able to reopen. And I'm wondering how you see that risk impacting the company. And also just this question of the advertising downturn that we're seeing as well.
Yeah, I think the key message from our conversations with advertisers and agencies is that the digital ad market is improving gradually. And this is by no means the robust recovery that we're seeing in e-commerce, for example, from companies like Amazon, Shopify, or Wayfair. But we can take the temperature of the online ad market, and indications are that Facebook and Instagram, among others, are seeing a gradual, steady improvement in trends. Certainly helped in part by that upswing in e-commerce.
It's weird to me. Good morning, by the way. It's John. It's weird to me
morning, John.
That given where we are, you're at this high for Facebook because you're saying that you see things recovering gradually based on your checks. It seems like in a different era, if we were in a downturn and things were recovering gradually, we wouldn't be seeing talking about new highs for a stock. So do you think that has to do with a lack of options where investors have to put their money if they want to return based on low interest rates, things like that? What's happening in fixed income? Why are you expecting the stock to hit new highs in this environment?
Well, from a bigger picture perspective, John, I think what we're seeing is a continuing secular rotation towards digital advertising from obviously traditional ads. And when you look at the amount of pressure right now that a lot of segments of the ad market are in related to the economy, what we're seeing in the digital ad market is very encouraging. And we think, just like in online retail, that online advertising is the market share as well as overall revenues are going to be set at a higher bar than they were, just 3 or 6 months ago. And then the positive impact from that market share gains carry over into subsequent years. And like you say, there is the benefit of consolidating market share to the platforms like Facebook, Google, and others.
Speaking of Google, Colin, I know there's a little space in your view between Facebook and Google. A lot of that's related to travel. But I wonder, maybe talk more about where you see the differences in terms of where their markets are located, the valuation and so forth.
Yeah, so I think Google is seeing many of the same trends in terms of that gradual recovery. Travel, events, and local in particular, I think are areas where Google has a little more exposure. I think, so that's one big difference. The other I'd mention is more on that direct exposure to e-commerce. Obviously, search is very exposed there positively, and we see steady trends in search. But Facebook, for example, with its partnership with Shopify, is making a much bigger push into shopping, into payments, even into gaming. And so from that perspective, we do see some additional incremental growth drivers within advertising for Facebook, where we haven't seen Google be quite as aggressive.